I wanted to ask, kind of in this same realm, is like, what do you do for like rests or breaks? A lot of people now they'll say, "Oh, you make sure you're taking rest and you're recovering." And obviously, with you writing 5 to 6 thousand words a day, and you're doing that 6 days a week, like, what is how do you kind of like turn off? Let's just say, because I know me, sometimes I get a story in my head and I'm trying to turn off, and it's stuck. I can't get my characters out of my head. So how do you what does that look like for you?
Well, I don't take a lot of time to rest, to be honest. But I do run and work out. So I run 4 times a week and I work out every day, usually twice a day, plus yoga before bed. So I do all of those things. And I do sit down with my husband, with my family at the end of the day, and work on work that doesn't require as much attention while I'm watching TV or whatever. I can be formatting, putting up social media, designing covers and all of those other sorts of things that I can still do with the distraction of people and TV. Whereas if I'm writing, then I need some quiet space. I can't have the TV on when I'm doing that, and I will shut my door and turn up my music if I need to, if there's too much else going on in the house. But so I do those things. And Sundays are rest day. I don't write or do any business on Sundays. And so I've got that built in as well. But I do, I'm up at 5:30 and I'm not usually asleep until 12:30. So um, I don't rest a lot during that time. I mostly work, but I move from one thing to another. So they say a change is as good as a rest.
I love that because I mean I also am kind of the same way. Like I get up and I have to be doing something. Like I'm working out, I'm writing, I'm learning how to do stuff on social media for promotion, marketing in the future. Now, learning all this podcast stuff. And so
Hmm.
it's just interesting to see that, because that again, that you have this really solid work ethic. You've obviously got some boundaries in place to say, okay, I can do this when it's this time. I do this with my family or with like this distraction. Sundays are a day for me. What do you have to say to people though that are like, no, I clock out at 5 o'clock. I go home. I'm going to sit in front of the TV, and then maybe those same people then complain after, and they're like, oh my gosh, how is this person so ahead in their career or this, and I'm still sitting here. Like, obviously you've got this other sort of work ethic. Like, what do you have to say to people like that?
uh, Everybody's different, and it doesn't matter to me whether you take a month to write a book or 10 years to write a book. And I do get a lot of, oh, I wish I was as productive as you, I wish I was as prolific as you and could get as much stuff out. Well, there are certain sacrifices if you're going to do that. And not everybody has the same abilities physically or mentally or that kind of thing. People don't have the same amount of energy. They don't have the same amount of time that they can spend on creative things. They've got kids and other commitments that are taking up their time. Um, Back when my son was 5, he was very high needs, and I was working full time. And the only time that I had for writing when he was that age was the 20 minutes that I was taking the train home from work to home. And once I was home, then I was taking care of him. You couldn't take your eyes off him. And so I would take over from my husband as soon as I got home, and then he would take over once I headed off to work. So I had 20 minutes on the train. I had my Palm Pilot, and I stood on the train and I wrote on my Palm Pilot for 20 minutes. And so I know that at that time I was working for a while on Ruby Between the Cracks, and that one took 2 years to write because I only had 20 minutes a day to write it. But now that he's older and more independent, and that I'm not working at the office full time, then I have more time that I can spend on writing and marketing and all of those other things. But I learned when he was little that I didn't need to sleep.
You'll sleep when you're dead, right?
That's
That's what
right.
I say.